It looks like we are live on YouTube and Facebook. This is a big deal. Good morning and welcome to the broadcast. I know why you're excited today, because we have radio heavyweight. I don't know if that's what he would like to be called, but he is.
Radio needs to lose 20 pounds.
not that kind of heavyweight. Rob Barnett is with us. He has a new book called Next Job, Best Job, with strategies on how to find and land your next job. But in addition to that, I know a lot of you are radio fans and media fans, and Rob has real radio roots and radio roots in Boston. You actually came to Boston and worked at the same station I started out at, WBCN. It seems that many roads seem to start from WBCN. Tell me about that. When was that?
That was in this thing called the 70s, man. And I got to Boston in the late 70s. I was a kid at Boston University, and I started at the college station, not the fancy one, not BUR, but the carrier current, the little AM station in the basement at WTBU, a couple years after Howard Stern started there. And that was my initiation. That's where I was born, right? I was born in college radio, and that led to my internship at BCN in 1979.
Culture was pretty different in 1979. How did it strike you when you got there?
Oh my God. I'm telling you, man, if we can just build this time machine and get everybody squeezed in and go back to one of the greatest times in rock and roll, not just in rock and roll, but in rock and roll radio, where there was this thing, you could look it up in the dictionary. It's called freedom. You could play what you wanted. You could say what you wanted.
Right. I mean, and it was extremely popular and did very well. And you went on to be a programmer. Let me ask you this question. I always get laughed out of the room when I ask the question. At the time, the community, the state, even though to some degree the country, trusted the jocks to go out on the street and find the good music. That's why you listened. You trusted these people to give you the culture, the music, and then that got taken away from them. And along with that being taken away, radio slid. And when I say, hey, why don't we find a bunch of jocks that you trust again and do exactly the same thing? And they all chortle, oh, you sad, naive little puke. Why couldn't that work again?
Well, it is working right here. We have the technology, right? We don't really need these major monolithic corporations anymore to do the voodoo that you do with your cameras and your microphones and your lovely beard and your headset. I mean, we don't need them. We really don't. Right. we moved past them. We rediscovered punk, and it was called first, the iPhone and YouTube and all the rest of it. They gave us new weapons that were more powerful than gatekeepers and can we just wish them all off the planet? Radio consultants, we don't need those people anymore.
It's good to hear you say that. Now, I do want to run through some of the things you've done, because it's a big deal. Some of the fun things, some of the big things. You were, as I understand it, was the guy that convinced the Rolling Stones to do a secret gig in a small club. That's got to be a story there.
Yeah, that's those are the greatest moments of my professional life. After BCN, I was an intern at COZ in Boston. And then I got my first radio job, the one that comes with money, at WAAF. I started as a weekend overnight jock the night before John Lennon was murdered in 1980. That was my first show with a paycheck. And in 1981, I'll do the short version of the world's funnest, longest story. Okay. In 1981, I'm at a bar late one night, and a sound engineer that I know from a nearby recording studio had way too many. I said, how's it going? He goes, I can't tell you. And I go, what are you talking about? He goes, he just looked like he was losing his mind. I said, what is it? He goes, oh man, if I could tell you what's going on. I go, what's going on? And after a bunch of drinks, I found out that the Rolling Stones were going to secretly arrive at a farm/recording studio in North Brookfield, Massachusetts. And he said that if I told anyone he told me, he'd lose his job. I said, I will never tell anyone that you told me. But I called the owner of the farm the next day and I said, I know. And he said, what do you know? I said, I know the thing that no one's allowed to know. And he goes, where do you have such information? I said, I can't tell you that. But I'm a journalist. I went to BU for journalism. So I'm going to have to go in the studio right now and tell all of New England that the Rolling Stones are coming, because that's my job as a journalist, unless you grant me an interview. If you grant me an interview, I'll grant my silence, right? But he wouldn't give me the interview. So I stalked Mick Jagger and found him flying into Worcester Airport one day in a teeny little 4-seat plane. And as a 21-year-old kid holding the microphone, I interviewed him, shaking like a leaf, and got to know him a little bit. And then I came up with this idea, this, little fun idea that they should do a secret private club gig just for WAAF's listeners. That would be fun. And long story short, they said yes. And I came out on stage in this club in Worcester in September 1981 and said, they're always introduced, ladies and gentlemen, the Rolling Stones. I changed it a little. I came out and said, ladies and gentlemen, I cannot fucking believe this, the Rolling Stones. And they played, for 2.5 hours for 300 of our listeners. That doesn't get any better than that. That's it.
It certainly does not. And for a young guy just starting out, you had a lot of, get up and go there. A lot of, authority to get. How did you do? You had a lot of self-confidence to get that done, or insanity. Or what? I don't know.
I don't know. I'll go with magic. Magic. Right. I love the band. I thought, wouldn't it be great if you, me, and 298 of our friends hung out and saw them play a little gig. So, they do it all the time now. They now it's become like a thing. They sneak into clubs a lot, but when we did it, I can't take all the credit. I did it in 81. They did it once before in their sort of famous time, late 70s up in Canada. And that's where I had the thought, that they should do that for us.
So we can't go through all your positions and all your accomplishments. There's the...
That's why God made LinkedIn.
I know. That's right. Go to LinkedIn and see the whole thing. I am curious about how a dude goes from there to being as high up as you got. I know you don't like to talk much about being president of programming at CBS, but that's pretty significant. Is it something within you that you can identify that was responsible for that rise?
Well, look, everyone who's ever worked in media, even the Oscar winners and the Grammy winners, know that it isn't up, 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 up. It's up and down and up and down and up and down and up and down. It's always like that. I've been fired more times than I can count. But each time, and we write about this in the book, there's some version of brushing off the agony and the horror and the pain and the lack of confidence, and then finding not just a way, but frankly, always one person who'll give you the next shot to get up off the mat and back into the next job. But, that's all it really takes. If we're just going to simplify it, right? It means get over your freaking agony, come up with the next target, and then play what we call in the book the 1 degree of Kevin Bacon, right? Not 6 people that kind of sort of know the woman in charge, but the one person that can get you the interview to get back in. That's all it takes.
Perfect place to get into the book. You should be very proud of this book. You sent me the electronic version, but it is so good that I'm definitely going to buy a copy. It's not just to read, but to use as a reference. There was a day you woke up, I guess it was 9 a.m., and you were thunderstruck. You had an epiphany that led you to where you are now. Tell me about that morning.
Well, like I said, on that roller coaster, after president of this and CEO of that, I was on my ass yet again in 2018, stuck bad. And every time I sent an email to get an interview for something, you'll never guess what happened. They forgot to write me back immediately.
Right.
No, I'm this great, amazing, nice guy. And the lack of response was freaking me the crap out. So I took my iPhone one day, this thing, and I pressed record, and I just said, I'm going to make 2-minute video about my situation. Hopefully I'm not going to bitch and moan too much, but I just want to say that what I'm going through is not unique. There are way too many friends that have had some of the best careers in radio and TV and showbiz and music and all of it. And why are we all stuck at home? Like, this is ridiculous. Like we're not supposed to be home. We're supposed to be back in the game doing what we all do, which is enlighten and entertain and inform the world. We're media schmoes, right? So I posted this video without getting too scared about how pathetic it was at 9 a.m., June 1st, 2018. And by that night, there were 16,000 views and 600 lengthy comments under the video. And my phone was blowing up with calls and texts. And it was the opposite of being ghosted. So I woke up the next morning and I said, all right, video number 2 is called Struck a Nerve. Let's keep talking. And I still had no game plan. I didn't know what this meant, but I knew that something was, you could feel it. It's like, I guess when a band has a song that's taken off on BCN, you know, right? So I kept going, and a man called after about 8 or 9 days, and he said, listen, I met you at MTV 100 years ago. I'm watching these videos. I love what you're saying, and I need to hire a chief operating officer. Is that what this is? You're a headhunter, right? And I went, yes. And then we weren't Zooming all the way back in 2018. So I muted the phone call and I Google search headhunter, recruiter, commission, fee. I'm trying to get a master class in 30 seconds so that when he starts asking me how this headhunting thing works, I could give him all the answers with confidence. And it worked. And he goes, great, write it up, let's go. And I wept a little, and I realized that at the ripe old age of, 700 years old, I figured out not just the next path, but a much different, somewhat missionary, if I may say, idea that I had probably done enough in my career to stop going for the next big job. And I gave myself this job that now helps thousands of people find their job. And it was, I don't know what to call it, but it wasn't planned. The word accident wants to come out of my mouth, but let's just say completely unexpected, right? I never thought I'd be doing this, but I love doing this.
In addition to the book, prior to the book, you give daily advice at robbarnett.com, correct?
Yeah, robbarnettmedia.com is our little home base, but I realized that it's more important to post these videos on every social media there is. So because that path happened based on this video 1, this morning would be video almost 800.
Wow.
And I try each morning. This morning's is way too long, but they're usually very short, sometimes a minute or 2 minutes, to just give people another little kernel of something that we're learning about how to end run all these gatekeepers and get to the job that you really want to be doing. So yeah, we do that every day. And then every Sunday, and all this stuff is free. And then every Sunday we send out an email to anybody who wants it. And guess what's in there? Job listings.
Wow. So you mentioned in the book, the agony of losing your job is a temporary pain that will heal and make room for renewed strength, a lighter heart, a quicker pace, a better sense of humor, and a megaton of new wisdom. So Can you talk about what that means?
Well, the book really starts out in the first section dealing a lot with this pain and agony. I have seen some of the most confident people I know, some of the most successful people I know, including this old man, brought to your knees when people are just not giving you a shot, to get back in and show what you can do. And so I felt that it was necessary to write a bit about that in these first couple of chapters. I'm always nodding to the Stones. So chapter 2 is called Emotional Rescue. And there's some tools and tricks in there about how to just get the frickin' sadness out of the way so that you can make room for the energy that you need to get back up and jump in. But then the second part of the book is really the most important thing we have to offer. Chapter 4 is called Your North Star. And what I realized is that one of the things that was keeping so many people out of work was not their age. It was not their location. It was not that they want too much money. It was that they were offering themselves as a kind of butcher, baker, candlestick maker, DJ, broadcaster, marketer, pastry chef. And I realized that at any given moment when a company is looking to hire somebody, let's say the roof is leaking at CBS, the head of CBS looks up and goes, damn it. And they only need a roofer in that one moment. So we wrote a whole chapter in the book about trying to really take a good, deep self-assessment and say, if I need a full-time job for the best money I can get back in a company, I'm not going to do the crazy entrepreneurial thing. If I got to go get a job in a company, then what is my version of roofer? Like, who am I? What am I selling to that company? Because people think, well, if I do Jill of all trades and Swiss Army knife, and I'm open-minded to helping you reach people with my this stuff is all too amorphous. Nobody's got time for that. So companies need to know exactly who you are in order to hire you. And so we write a lot about that.
You have 11 strategies in the book, and these strategies result in focused game plan, sudden increase in confidence, new sense of purpose. Overall, it seems that just being energized and doing it instead of sitting back, being proactive, brings its own success. Am I getting that right?
Yes. Yes. Well, we write in the book about this crazy idea, when you're in a job, they can fill your day up with all these meetings that you just hate. And you're in 9 a.m. and then at 10 a.m. and then there's a break and then there's a 10:30 meeting. One of the things I realized was necessary about a job search to get all the pain away and put some of that energy back in that you're talking about is your calendar, the least sexy app on your phone. I realized I could fill that up with specific things that I needed to do every single day to make shit happen, and treat them like meetings, like real meetings where you can't be late. So we go through in the book an example of exactly what you might do hour by hour by hour to get back in the game.
You talk about firing the no police. I think that's interesting. And another theme that I sense is that nobody wants to hang around with a person feeling sorry for themselves. Simply being positive and upbeat, that itself makes it more likely you'll get the gig, because people want to hang around with people that are positive and upbeat. And you can sense when somebody is down in the dumps. And so you really need to fix yourself as best you can. And that in itself is an attraction. And part of that would be to to not let people bring you down by being the no police. Fire the no police.
Yeah. Well, look, every artist, every musician will tell you that, there's all those voices in your head trying to sort of prevent you from doing the great magical stuff you want to do, right? Well, I'm too this, I'm too that, I'm too senior, I'm too junior. All those things I call the no police in the book. They're just like, they are there to prevent you from having a freakish amount of fun. So you have to just blow past them and really, really just look, it's natural, right? Everybody at some point, I'm sure everybody who's ever walked into the Oval Office, let's not get into politics, but I can't help but say this. At some point, everybody that walks in that office goes, how the hell am I at this desk, right?
Right.
There's got to be like a teeny bit of, sometimes some people call it the fraud police. I call it the no police. Like, how the hell did I get here? Answer is, you're here. Go, do it. Make it happen.
You
right?
have to do it.
Yeah.
Something I think is a great idea. The super sponsor, somebody that you make, you have a relationship with that keeps you on track.
Yes, a super sponsor. Well, because the hardest part about the job search, the depression that comes in, is tied to something we've all just had a master class in loneliness, right? We've all gotten that. But what COVID did to the world and to all of us who survived is it forced us into this like tiny little isolated box that freaked a lot of people out, made a lot of people mentally sick. That's not that dissimilar from what happens to a lot of people when they're stuck out of work for too many months. So I do think it's important to try to deputize a friend or two that can keep you accountable and keep you on track, because the quieter it gets, the lonelier it gets, the more you're losing contact with people.
How should people use?
Almost impossible to succeed.
How should people use the book in addition to just reading it? You should keep it around, but you must have recommendations on how to use the book as an ongoing tool.
Yeah, well, when those of us that got to MTV in the 80s, we were all accused of something that I think we are guilty of. We were accused of fueling a culture that was based on short attention spans, right? Even the videos themselves, not only were they the length of a pop song, but they were edited within an inch of their lives, and everything was just now. Twitter starts out with only a few characters. I was conscious of this in the book, and I wanted people to be able to have something that would last a long time. So in addition to having 11 different chapters that all have their own unique purpose, each chapter has very short, specific suggestions that people can easily go back to with subheaders that shockingly are usually based on songs that you see sitting behind you. So I tried to make the book very user-friendly over the long haul, so that if you need just a little kernel of something, you don't have to sit there and read 78 pages to get it.
Even the amount I've read is, I am between jobs myself, and it is motivating. I'm very excited that you did this, and I thank you for it. Specifically to radio, and a lot of people in the radio business will see this. What's going on in the industry that people need to know to best position themselves to get a job in radio? Things change very quickly. It ain't like it used to be. There's no one more qualified than you to say, you know what, you need to do this now and not this now because it's different. What would you recommend?
I'm laughing only because my 13-year-old son, Dylan, had never seen the movie Get Out. And a couple of weeks ago, I said, you got to watch this movie. So I just thought of, you're asking me about radio. And I just thought about that moment where the guy goes, get out. I'm only half kidding because the industry is consolidating again in a way that's very, very scary. And it really is difficult. Look, we could go on for hours and hours and hours talking about radio. I'll just say one thing in answer to your question. In order for radio to continue to be the powerful force in the world that it's been in the past, it has got to figure out a way to not interrupt an hour of programming with 78 hours of commercials. That shit don't work. And there's got to be another deep rethink about how radio makes its revenue. And if the answer keeps coming back to interruptive ads, I think we're missing something here. I think we're missing something. So if you want to get into radio now, come into radio, not just with great voice, with great chops, with great experience, with great music taste, with great talk ability. Come into radio with new ideas that are going to produce revenue that's not based on interruptive ads. And then the scared, crazy execs who run those companies will have to listen to you, and they will have to hire you, because the revenues are shrinking and the audience is shrinking, and they need new revenue ideas. I'd lead with cash.
All right. Rob Barnett, I'm privileged. Thank you so much. This has been great. We could talk a lot longer, but we don't want to dilute this perfect length broadcast here. So the book, Next Job, Best Job. And this is the author right here, Rob Barnett. It's very inspiring and very specific, which is what you need. Thank you so much.
Thanks, man. It's great to talk to you.
Likewise.